You know we love spooky things. This is why we fell in love with Michigan-based Lynn B Designs. When I popped the pumpkin spice all the things wax melt into my burner, my home was filled with the delicious buttery scent. Plus, there's the wide variety of gorgeous nail polishes with themes like Hocus Pocus and Pleasant Peninsula. All products are vegan and cruelty-free, and you can find monthly sales on Facebook and Instagram at Lynn B Designs. Head to lynbdesigns.store today. Again, that's LYNB designs.store.
We love them. We love you. It's great nail polish. It's the best I've ever used. Thanks.
Michiganders can be a superstitious bunch. We find all sorts of reasons to explain the world around us, sometimes pulling from science, sometimes tradition, and sometimes from our imaginations. What happens when we can't readily explain our experiences? And what happens when a ghost story gets out of hand? Do these legends stem entirely from fantasy? Or are people seeing things no one can truly explain?
I'm Krista K. Coburn.
And I'm Kay Gray.
Welcome to Haunted Mitten.
My cat might be in the middle of that recording.
I did hear her.
What's up, witches? It's been 5-ish years, but we are back again, finally, to talk about more Michigan witches. That's right, we have more of them.
Absolutely.
In the first Witches episode, all the way back in season 1, we told the story of the infamous Ada Witch and Finley Cemetery.
Which my husband Greg and I visited in July of 2023. We took pictures and I wrote up a little blurb, which you can access on our Patreon if you're interested. You can see some of the items that people have left at Sarah's grave, because that's always a thing when people visit graves.
Yep. I leave stuff.
Famous graves, anyway, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Other witches we have talked about are the alleged witch at Parashani, because every ghost town needs a witch story. There was also the Dice Road Warlock for something a little different, and the totally not real, absolutely not real Mackinac Island witch pool. I mean that completely sincerely. I am not being sarcastic. It is not real. No witches were ever drowned on Mackinac Island.
Yeah, Mackinac Island was a little late for the whole witch craze, so popular story, but
as we find out in this episode,
women.
not entirely too late.
I said witch craze, not witch stories.
Oh. Fair. Okay.
In this episode, we'll be talking about historic Fallisburg Village, which my husband and I also visited, and which you can also check out on our Patreon. Did not intend for this to be a Patreon-heavy episode, but here we are. We've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
And connected to the Fallisburg legend is White's Bridge for reasons we will get into later.
We will also get into Warlock Willie, whom we ran into a few times while researching our book Ypsilanti Ghosts and Legends, which is out now and available for purchase from your favorite local bookstore. I had to say it, and it makes a perfect gift for this holiday season.
Absolutely. I love books. I love getting books for the holidays, especially the spooky variety.
Absolutely.
And I could not resist the very real story of Etta Fairchild, accused witch of Kalamazoo, who was murdered less than 100 years ago in 1929.
Yep.
I came across some amazing stuff while trawling through newspaper archives. Like, this was just, I came across it while looking through something else. It's great.
I love when that happens.
It was such a, like, what? So without further ado, let's get into it. The story of the Fallisburg Witch centers around the old covered bridge, which is located in historic Fallisburg Village. In fact, it's a great entry point if you ever head out that way. Quoting from the Fallisburg Historical Society, today's pioneer village includes 20 acres along the banks of the Flat River, a covered bridge and one-room schoolhouse, a village cemetery, the Fallis House and Meisner House museums, and the Orland Douglas Tower Farm. Fallisburg Village was designated a historical district with the National Registry of Historic Places on March 31st, 1999.
The historical marker at the bridge reads as follows: John W. and Silas S. Fallis settled here in 1837, founded a village which soon boasted a chair factory, sawmill, and grist mill. About 1840, the first of several wooden bridges was placed across the Flat River, but all succumbed in a short time to high water and massive spring ice jams. Bridge builder Jared N. Breezy?
Maybe Breezy or Bressy, I'm not sure.
Jared N. Bressy of Ada was given a contract in 1871 to build the present structure. Constructed at a cost of $1,500, the bridge has latticework trusses made of white pine timbers. As in all covered bridges, the roof and siding serve to protect the bridge timbers from rot. Repairs in 1905 and 1945 have kept the bridge safe for traffic for 100 years.
And it's totally safe to drive across it. My husband and I did, and we are fine. Our cars are fine.
Everything's cool.
It's really a beautiful spot along the river too. I highly recommend like packing a lunch, visiting some afternoon, especially if you enjoy historic places like I do. We took a walk through the graveyard. It was wonderful. The Fallisburg Bridge is one of the few remaining covered bridges in Michigan, so you should check it out while you still can.
I was just at another one in Frankenmuth the other day.
Yes, yes.
It was cool. I love covered bridges. They're awesome.
Yeah, we still have some. They still work.
We do. Similar to so many other ghost towns, the reason Fallisburg failed to thrive is because the railroad was built to follow the Grand River rather than the Flat River and went through Lowell instead. Commerce followed the railroad, which meant more jobs, and by the end of the 19th century, Fallisburg was essentially no more.
The legend is also a pretty familiar one. Someone died either by hanging on the bridge or jumping into the river, whether self inflicted or by an angry mob, and that person's spirit now haunts the place of death. We've heard this a lot, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason Fallisburg is included in this episode is because this person is often claimed to be a witch.
No way!
Everyone knows a
Crazy.
witch's ghost is more powerful than a regular person's ghost, right? That's how that
Oh.
works.
Yeah.
I think that's what we learned from Pear Shaney.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. Some stories say the witch was a woman, some say a man. In fact, Rich Newman's book, Haunted Bridges, specifically says that people have heard disembodied voices and stomping footsteps and seen the, quote, pale visage of the forlorn man.
Weird that it's a man. It's like, usually we blame it on women.
Yeah, witches is typically a feminine word.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Equality.
Yep.
According to WFMK, quote, people who picnic or cross over the bridge have seen floating and walking apparitions. A voice has been heard inside the bridge, but upon peering inside, nobody is there. Stories of murders, screams, and spirits that move your vehicles have been spread through the years as well, end quote. Did you guys hear or see anything or have your vehicle physically moved?
We did not, sadly.
Sad.
I don't know if it makes a difference, but we were in the middle of a sunny afternoon. But anyone wants to scour my photos, they're on Patreon. I took a video actually as we're crossing. So yeah, feel free to check them out. Maybe you noticed something I didn't. That's easily a thing. Very possible.
Nice sunny afternoon. Yeah. Nah, that's not a good time for witching.
No, absolutely not. But it was a beautiful day to be out and, walking and checking out this historic village.
Yeah. Okay, so what does Whitesbridge have to do with Fallisburg?
So glad you asked.
It's here in the script, man. I have to.
First of all, R.I.P. Whitesbridge. The third bridge on this site, which lasted the longest by far, was a brown truss-covered bridge built in 1867 or 1869. Reports vary. MLive said that it was, quote, Michigan's oldest original construction covered bridge, end quote. And it was destroyed completely by fire on the morning of July 7th, 2013.
What the fuck?
Yep. The police deemed it arson, so fuck you, whoever burned down this beautiful old bridge.
For real?
A replica was completed in April 2020, so you can still go and investigate the legend. If it's the location and not the bridge itself, you should still be able to go investigate. Speaking of, not long after this third bridge was built, the townsfolk began gossiping about a witch. Ac-
No way.
According, again, to Rich Newman, quote, the story goes that the woman was beguiling and working her ways with the villagers until they'd had enough of her. An angry mob descended upon her, dragged her to the bridge, and then hung her there. End quote.
What?
I know, what a story.
What does that mean?
I don't know, it's a good prompt if you're
What
into
is
writing short
beguiling
stories.
and working her ways?
And like all of the villagers. It doesn't specify like the men of the town or anything like that. It just says the
Right.
villagers. So like what shenanigans was this woman getting up to?
What are we doing?
Like I said, it's a good prompt for
Yeah, it
a
is.
story or something. Yeah.
Someone that's not us write that. We have a lot of stuff to do.
I have a lot of things I'm working on. Yeah. Maybe one day. But since this time that may or may not have ever happened, people claim to have seen the dead woman swinging from the rafters and heard her around the bridge, experienced feelings of being watched and nausea. Because the story is so similar to that of the Phallusberg Bridge, and the two bridges are located very close to one another, many speculate that one bridge may have been mistaken for the other.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
But they're right there, so you can visit both
exactly.
at the same time.
Yeah,
You're
let us
like, hey,
know.
are you haunted? No. Are you haunted? Are you both haunted with the exact same thing?
Yeah. I mean, Whitesbridge is the one that has, I guess, a more definitive witch story, even though I just read it to you in one single sentence.
Right.
But
Sure.
it could actually be about the Phallusberg Bridge, which also has the witch being hanged there, or a man jumped to his death. Who knows?
Who knows?
That's kind of how these stories go.
Yeah. No, we have no idea, but they're haunted, so I don't know. Go
Yeah,
find out.
I mean, we didn't visit Whitesbridge, but they're pretty easy to get to. We sort of stumbled upon Phallusberg a little
Oh
bit.
no.
Like I didn't know what all was there. I just knew the bridge and that there was like a schoolhouse or something. I didn't know there was this whole village with all these buildings and things. It was really neat.
That's awesome. How far is it?
Um, it's out near Grand Rapids.
Oh, okay.
It's apparently a very haunted area. You've got Ada, you've got Phallusberg,
Yeah.
you've got Whitesbridge.
What's up with you, Grand Rapids area?
And it's very near Lowell if you're driving. It's very near Lowell. If you are
Got it.
walking, not so much. If you're
Yeah.
taking a horse, maybe not so much. Because we also visited Lowell, so we could visit the bookstore there.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, our next witchy location is a little closer to home, our home. We are talking about the grave of Warlock Willie, located near the corner of Huron River Drive and Zeeb Road in Scioto Township. So, like just outside of Ann Arbor, of West Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
The grave is located in a cemetery so abandoned that it's almost unrecognizable as a cemetery, and a large tree grows up through Willie's grave. Or two trees twisted together to embrace the grave. The stories vary.
The cemetery is nearly 2 centuries old, and Willie's headstone is no longer there, but you can still see where the grave is, nestled between two large tree roots. It's possible that this was, in fact, a depression dug out by some visitors, but again, who knows? The story goes that if you lie down on the ground above the grave, a shadow, or maybe a demon, will pass down into the ground through you. Or is it that you feel the suppressed powers of an old and powerful warlock trying to escape? As you can see, there's not a lot of certainty going on here.
Wait, which stories don't have certainty?
Amazing! I love local legends, they're the best.
Yeah. I love that we have our own warlock.
Yeah. And his name's Willie. It's so wonderful.
I know. There are a couple of videos on YouTube about Willie's grave. One user commented on
Your guess,
Ocelot?
yeah, your guess is as good as mine. It's YouTube. It's a username on YouTube.
One user commented on Astulak's video, quote, I remember when the headstone was there, but there were two warlocks, two thorn trees, and two headstones. They were surrounded by several small flat grave markers, end quote. Someone else commented, quote, "My recollection from when the headstone was still intact in the 90s is that he was named Samuel Lyon, Lyon, end quote. So, not Willie. In fact, a very famous last name in the area because we have a whole city with that last name.
Yes, yes, it's pretty known.
Yeah.
I'm not actually sure where the name Willie came from. I found a song called Willie the Warlock by Billy Q. Effinger and the American Imperial Music Telegram Orchis. May or may not be short for orchestra. From, I believe it was 2006. So
Okay.
going back a bit. But the story of the grave goes back decades.
Yeah.
We talked to some older folks in Ipsy who remembered going there as teenagers, and none of them reported any unusual activity on their visits, but it's still a popular place for people seeking a spooky experience, if you will, to visit.
I know I don't know how I haven't been yet.
I know we keep talking about going.
And then we just never do. How
Yeah.
sad.
Greg and I have talked about it for like probably a decade or more.
I gotta do it. I gotta lay down on the grave and see what happens.
Yeah, see if anything goes in or out of you.
Oh, weird.
I feel like this is the only story I've heard of where something like goes down through you into the ground.
Yeah,
Usually it's emanating out,
right,
like the other story associated with the grave.
right.
So that I find interesting.
Dating back to 1853, Brookside Cemetery in Tecumseh is home to the memorials of many prominent families of the area, including the Stacys. Judge Stacy was a big name in town, and his wife and 5 children were very well known. When the judge passed away, a chair memorial was erected in the family plot. Rumor has it that his wife sat in that chair every day, hours on end, for 17 years.
But Mrs. Stacy isn't the dreaded witch of Brookside Cemetery. That honor somehow fell to Loanna, one of the Stacy children. It is reported that she outlived her entire family, parents and siblings. She never married and became the town spinster. And strangely, some kind of illness or illnesses swept through the area while she was alive. Not surprising, this is Michigan of the past.
Yeah,
How many sicknesses passing through towns have we talked about on this show?
so many.
But this one made many of the locals sick and actually killed off a lot of farm animals as well. So, of course, Luana's blamed, and this little old lady became a witch.
So we'll just blame this poor old woman. Okay.
Obviously,
That
it's the
becomes a theme
spinster.
for the rest of our episode.
Yeah.
Um, however, people have seen a woman, either Loanna or her mother Mary, sitting in the chair in Brookside. And it is said that anyone who sits in the chair will die soon after. We have no reports of this actually happening. And Mary sat in the chair for 17 years and seemed fine. But you bet I'm going to sit in that chair. Krista
Yeah.
will, of course, report to you all if I die. This
Yes, I
isn't going to
will.
become some Weekend at Bernie's podcast. I have an idea.
Uh-oh.
I would love to travel around the US and just sit in all of the cursed chairs.
We've got a few here in Michigan, so.
There's so many.
And I feel like if this was a thing where like, oh, if you sit in this chair, you're gonna die soon after. Like, why would you sit in the chair?
Then why would anyone do it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
other
oh,
than
okay. Well, I guess I just won't sit in that chair then. Like,
unless they're idiots like me.
I'll show you guys.
Take this chair. Oh no.
Anyway, that's all there is about Mary and Lana. Lana was
That's
a
it.
witch because she was old and weird.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah, there's a definite theme with most of these stories.
Yeah.
And this brings us to our final story tonight. Did you know the last witch hunt happened in Michigan? Kalamazoo, in fact, in 1929. It might not be so difficult to believe now that the US is heading back into the Dark Ages, but in July 1929, Etta Fairchild was accused of witchcraft and murdered.
Yeah, it doesn't seem so far-fetched in this day and age, but
One does worry. You know, history
one
rhymes.
does worry.
History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.
Etta didn't know that when she went to the Burgess house for dinner in July 1929, she wouldn't be leaving alive. She sat at the table as Mrs. Burgess finished serving supper, unaware that for the past year she had been the target of Eugene and Pearl Burgess's paranoia, and that they would clear their minds of this problem one way or another that night. According to Pearl's testimony in court, as told by the Detroit Free Press that October, quote, while the woman was seated there, the sheriff stated, Mrs. Burgess told him, she came up from behind and hit the woman over the head with a lead pipe and dragged her into the living room, where she beat the woman to death and then dragged the body to the bedroom where it was left until dark. End quote. Very clue of her.
That's exactly what I was thinking. The lead pipe. I always
The
thought
lead
that was an
pipe,
odd
huh?
choice, but apparently not.
I know. I guess it wasn't weird to put that in the game.
I guess not. So bizarre. Mrs. Burgess proceeded to clean up the house and toss the soiled rugs into a cistern at the back of their property. She then went to Mrs. Ring's house, a neighbor, and confessed to the killing. Good on her. Pearl asked Mrs. Ring if she would help dispose of Etta's body, quote, beside some road where it would appear as though an automobile had struck it, end quote. Mrs. Ring, of course, refused. Good on her. Quoting from the same October 1929 article, quote, when I said the law would prosecute her, Mrs. Burgess said she would place her fate in the hands of God, but not in the hands of man, end quote. You know, like she took Etta Fairchild's life into her hands.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What about that, Pearl? Now, also during this time, the Burgess's teenage daughter had been sent away and was not allowed to come home until she called and had permission from her parents. This was, of course, after Etta had been tied up, rolled into curtains, lashed to a cement block, and also tossed in the cistern. Eugenia came home to find nothing out of place, ate dinner alone, and then took her mother over to Mrs. Ring's. Eugenia waited in the car while the above took place, what Krista just described, and then drove her mother home, not knowing anything. Wild.
Yeah.
And there's some speculation as to how much the murder, as to how much of the murder Eugene Burgess was involved with, but it's clear from the newspaper articles of the arrest and trial and his later suicide that he was firmly involved, even if he and his wife didn't give the same story as to who did the killing. And they tried to get their son involved too, but the son didn't live with them and vehemently denied even knowing about the murder plan. Fuck you, mom and dad.
Yeah. Like, jeez.
Yeah, our son was totally involved in this too. And the son is like, I live across the street, and that's about as close as I ever came to like aiding and abetting in murder.
Mm-hmm. So what did Etta Fairchild do to begin with? You may be wondering. According to the Burgesses, Etta had been haunting the family for 15 years. She placed a very nebulous spell, quote unquote, on Eugenia, in which the teenager got sick after her first meeting with Etta. A July 1929 write-up in the Free Press notes that the Burgesses believed that the death of Etta's best friend was the result of her influence on said friend. Eugene Burgess told police, quote, for 15 years she has cast an evil spell over my family. She killed my mother with evil spirits. She has killed many other people every year since then. Why, she told us that she caused as many as 100 people to die every year just by casting a spell over them.
Sure. Yep. That seems plausible at all.
Obviously, yeah.
It seems that Etta's claims of witchcraft may have been at least jokes, and at the worst, the imagination of an older woman going senile. But the people who knew her outside of the Burgess family said she was a quote unquote wonderful storyteller. The Free Press wondered if it was these fantastical stories that got her into trouble with the Burgesses. They took Etta at her word, and, well, we can't say this isn't something we've seen in much more recent history.
Eugene Burgess, as we said, committed suicide in his cell 2 weeks before the case went to trial.
Coward.
Yeah. So many men take that way out. Jeez.
I know.
Pearl underwent several medical and psychological examinations at the Kalamazoo State Hospital. Her lawyer filed a petition to have her sent to Ionia Hospital, which those of you familiar with the True Crime Show on Patreon will recognize as a place that comes up a lot in those episodes.
And vehemently shake. You can't see this, but I am vehemently shaking my head. Yes.
She was sent there in April of 1930. And then her records kind of disappear. She's not listed on Find a Grave. Etta is, under a completely different name, in fact. Laura Etty Runyon Fairchild is listed as her full name.
Yeah, it took me forever to find.
So, may have been married more than once? I don't know.
I don't know.
Married
But it
at
took me
least
forever
once.
to find. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the story of the last witch murder. It happened in Kalamazoo, so congrats, Krista, I guess.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, so many weird things happen in my old hometown. So bizarre. And like the Kalamazoo State Hospital has its stories too.
I know. What's going on that side of the state? What's happening?
So much.
Is it the lake effect?
Oh, it is the snow belt. People going crazy in those winters.
Just going insane.
Yeah. All that isolation.
Right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's what happens. And then in the warm months when they can finally leave their homes, they just all freak out, I guess.
Yeah.
We don't have any idea if the cemetery in which Etta is buried is haunted by a witch, though. But Riverside Cemetery is said to be haunted. We just don't know or think it's Etta.
Right. It has a lot of stories, a lot of its own stories.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, just like remember, this was 1929. This was less than a century ago.
Uh-huh. And it rhymes very well with the Satanic Panic of the
Absolutely.
late 80s.
Yes, absolutely.
And the burgeoning Satanic Panic of right now.
Well, and even like the communist was its own kind of satanic panic.
Yeah.
Not too long after this.
For sure. Yeah.
And honestly, if you took this story and you changed the date to like 17 something, 16 something, it would fit. It would fit in perfectly. Like,
yeah. The Burgesses just might not have had to have like hide the body.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They could have brought it to the community and they would have been like, oh yeah, she's obviously a witch.
She's a witch. Here's what she did to my daughter for 15 years, apparently. Because she got sick once.
Yep. Obviously a witch.
Yeah. Oh,
some people just don't have a sense of humor. big question mark.
Some people I
think
are just a little more literal than others and maybe can't, see when something is a joke and when it's not, and usually that's totally fine. Except when it leads to killing an old lady who liked to probably tease her friends and children that she was a witch. Like,
yeah, because she's the old lady on the block, right? Like, that's such a common.
Yeah, she was part of a senior home. She was friends with the woman that owned that senior boarding house. She knew everybody there. She had lived in the community her whole life. Like, she was known.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of like old, especially children's like Halloween movies where it's like, oh, the old lady in the creepy house.
Yeah.
Is a witch, and of course she's some sweet old lady or whatever.
Oh, of course.
It's that kind of story.
Yeah.
And I could see someone kind of leaning into that, especially because Halloween would have been coming up at the time. As a thing in the US, trick-or-treating and so forth. So
I was like, no, it was July, but no, you're right. As like a largely celebrated holiday. Yes.
Yeah. So I could see an old woman at that time, certainly, if the little kids in the neighborhood were they're like, oh, look at the witch, and she'd be like, oh yes, I'm a wicked witch. Ooh.
I'm a spooky witch. I put spells on you.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening.
And the Burgesses, just took that seriously and then played off each other and just escalated it in their heads, and for 15 years, I guess. And decided that was the
such
day.
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something snapped, I'm guessing, in this woman's mind.
Yeah. But Neither of them gave the same story. I think they were trying to protect the other one, but
Oh, yeah, probably.
yeah. But it didn't work.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I
Because you
guess
can't just go around killing old ladies.
no. I mean, Pearl, I guess, at least got I mean, may or may not have lived. She kind of fell off the record. We don't know quite what happened to her, but
Yeah. Well, yeah.
they recognized that she was probably insane.
Yeah. Or something.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and since she was sent to Ionia, which was a mental hospital, it's
Mhm.
not surprising that I couldn't find any records
Not really,
after she
no.
was sent there.
No. Unfortunately, no.
Um, and Ionia closed really, I want to say in like the 60s, maybe. Like it didn't close as late as the other ones that we have records for. So,
Okay. Yeah, because I don't remember Ionia.
yeah.
Um, but I,
Yeah,
I
it closed.
remember I remember some of the other ones we've talked about that have been bulldozed. I remember when they existed,
Yep.
like the Ipsy State Hospital.
Yeah. But no, Ionia was closed some time ago. So we
Okay.
definitely don't
Yeah.
have those records. But
Oh yeah, people were definitely not keeping track, and they wouldn't have been computerized. They just
right.
probably were
Oh,
left to
especially
rot.
not. Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So yeah, that's the last witch hunt and witch murder of the US.
yeah,
So far.
yeah. At least that we are aware of,
That we know about.
because it wouldn't surprise me if some other group did this, lost their heads, and
Oh
did
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Especially if you
Cool.
were like a very devout religious, one of those more maybe superstitious religions,
Yeah, for
which
sure.
also foster suspicion of your
Yeah.
neighbors.
Mhm.
So it's a very suspicious mindset, which is unfortunate.
It really is. All right, on that note.
Yeah. What a way to end.
We
But
got
but
some
yeah, this
social
was our first
media.
real life witch.
Yeah, this one is actually like
This is the
this
one we can, actually
she
point to a person whether or not she was a
she
witch.
was actually a person.
Whereas like
Honestly,
We never figured out how Sarah was fingered as the Ada witch.
no idea. Um, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to look up Edda's grave because I was like,
Mhm.
yes, it's all in the newspapers. I need to find this woman. I have to
Oh,
know.
yes, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, this is our first real live person. Still hashtag not a witch,
Yeah, probably not.
but
Probably not. But yeah.
even if she did practice, like like what we call magic, like you know, uh, burning some rosemary to like get the bad air out of your house, or
Yeah,
like
she could have done, yeah, like folk magic, a
yeah.
folk healing. She was an old
I'm
woman
still gonna
in
say
1929, so
yeah. Oh yeah. I'm still gonna say hashtag not a witch because that's not the kind of witch that they mean.
right, right.
Um, yeah. So we have socials. You can find us at Haunted Mitten, at Krista K Coburn, at K Gray Rights. Get my own last name incorrect. On most places, not Twitter, unless you want to watch me yell at Alex Jones and Elon Musk. Um, we got a Patreon that we talked about several times. Uh,
Yes. I My husband and I like visiting places, okay?
yeah,
And
no, that's great.
and then I take pictures and video, and then I put them on Patreon.
In fact, we're going somewhere really awesome the this month of December. So like
Yeah,
be prepared, baby. We're going to have more write-ups about stuff and hopefully some sweet
heck
videos and
yeah.
photos. We got a book. I got there.
Yep, Ypsilanti Ghosts and Legends.
Buy it for somebody.
Yeah, makes a great present.
And
I've heard
then
it's good bedtime reading.
that is what legitimately we have been
Yeah,
told.
so many people have told me that. I'm like, "That's great. I love that. I love that so much."
I I have the best plug ever for you, Krista.
Uh-oh.
My mother-in-law likes it.
Oh, excellent.
She loves the history parts
Good.
and how detailed you were in them.
Excellent. I did put a lot of work into that.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of research. It was a lot of writing.
No. She likes it a whole lot.
Oh, that makes me so pleased.
Yeah. Um, so even your Catholic boomer mother-in-law will like this book,
Yeah. Who's not even from Michigan.
who's not even from here, has no
Nope.
idea what we're really talking about. Doesn't matter. She likes it.
Yeah, good. I love that. I love that.
And have you ever, not you, Krista, but you, dear audience, wanted to get involved with your local podcasters? Because you can. We would love to have more sponsors. We have and have had some incredible sponsors in the past. Shout out Lynn B Designs. I am wearing her nail polish right now.
So am I. I'm also drinking Chapters tea.
And Chapters Tea, who is like down the street from me. It's great.
Yeah.
But if you have a small business or you're an artist, or you want to send me a mattress, just throwing that out there. We would totally be happy to talk to you about sponsorship. We are really inexpensive.
It's true. We're very local. Support your local businesses. They are cheaper than Tully, what are you doing? We've been invaded by another cat.
You, just like Krista's cat Tully, can be a sponsor of Haunted Mitten.
She says, I'm a good meow scat.
Good. Krista, is there anything else you want to?
You can always keep an eye out for Neighborhood Theater Group if you are in the Ypsilanti Ann Arbor area. We have my husband Greg has another show coming up in when is that coming up? Next year.
Next year. Yeah, this will
Next
be out
month.
after Mary and Bright. So
Yeah.
So next year. And where can people find that?
At ntgypsy.org.
Yup. Come see us. We're cool.
It's
I
the
promise.
Back Office Studios. So you can probably also find info on the Back Office Studios website.
You sure can. All right, friends. And as always, happy haunting.
We're back here to talk to you about Lynn B Designs. Not only do they have the best nail polish to rival even those most expensive nail polishes you see on Instagram, but they have stickers, wax melts, shirts, everything cute and adorable and definitely ready for this fall season. So be sure to check out this vegan, cruelty-free brand. You will love them as much as we do. Check out Lynn B Designs monthly sales. They are fantastic. I am going to go look at some right now. Thanks.